Hey guys, it's Mrs. Morford here. I was just going to record a lecture for you so it's a little bit easier for you to understand the notes. In the Google Classroom, I've posted your guided notes, I've posted the full notes, and then I'm going to be recording this video going through the notes. There is a couple videos that are referenced in this. Those should also be found in the Google Classroom. If you have any questions, just email me or call or text the number on your classroom guide. I'd be happy to help. All right, so Unit 2 we started yesterday, and the information that we went through, I'll go through, but then I also want to talk about what we talked about today. So Unit 2, Ecology. By the end of the section, we'll be able to answer these questions. What is ecology? What are producers? What are consumers? And how does energy flow in an ecosystem? So this is one of the videos that I would really like it if you would watch. It's a great example of how we can go from humans and it just gradually gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we can also get smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's a really cool video that zooms in and out, and it's able to give us a really cool look at the world around us. As we start ecology, one of the terms you'll notice is in blue and it has a star. All of those words this time are vocabulary words for us in this unit. So a biosphere is anything that's around us: land, water, atmosphere, and all organisms. Biologists use the term biosphere when we're talking about things on a global scale. So we know what a globe is, right? It's where a big circle like this, and it's the planet Earth, and we can spin it around and we can see the Earth, all the continents, the ocean. If you touch it, you can feel like the mountains and stuff. So it's a really cool, small model for us to use when we're interested in looking at the Earth. So when we talk about a biosphere, we're talking about everything that lives on that globe. Studying our living planet. So one of the questions that we ask is, how is the Earth a living planet? Well, organisms in a biosphere interact with each other. They also interact with their surroundings. And another word for their surroundings is their environment. Another vocabulary word for us this time is ecology, which is the study of organisms in a biosphere that are interacting. Basically, what that says is ecology studies individual organisms on the Earth interacting. So how does a human interact with other humans? And how does a human interact with the plants and animals that are around it? Or how does a lion interact with what it's around? Or how does the bacteria in the ground interact with other bacteria and other things in the ground? A population is a group of organisms that belong to the same species living in the same area. So we have a rabbit on this slide. Now we're going to look at all of these rabbits on the slide. You can tell that they're in the same species. They're also in the same group or in the same area. So this is representing a population. Next, we have a community. So a community is something that it's different populations that live in a defined area. So one thing, I'm going to turn my computer, we'll go this way. And I want to show you something on the board here. So one thing for us, when I'm talking about a defined area, you guys, I'm talking about something where we can see complete borders. So for example, this is South Dakota, okay? When we come up here, we're no longer in the South Dakota community. When we come down here, we're no longer in the South Dakota community. This is South Dakota. And from the looks of it, you might not be able to see it, so I'll bring you a little bit closer here. All right, there we go. So there is South Dakota. It's got defined borders because as soon as we cross over it, we're no longer in South Dakota. So that is how we can picture a community. So this is a front yard. So this is another example of a community. We have our rabbit friend, a squirrel and his friends, a gopher, rabbits, those are birds, and then another bird. So all of these different species live together in a special designated area, which is the front yard of this house. That is a community. If you think of someone's last name, so when you think of our classroom, I have a different last name and pretty much everyone else in the room has a different last name. So we're our own population. But when we're together, all of our last names put together, that makes us in a community in the classroom. Okay. Methods of research. Now, this is what we talked about today during class. When we have ecology, there's different ways that we can research things. An observation, just like we talked about in Unit 1, is where we ask questions about our environment. We can experiment, testing our hypothesis, and modeling. So when we model in ecology, usually this is done when we're not able to see all of our surroundings or all of the information that we need to make the experiment work. So for example, if we're studying something in England, but we live in South Dakota, we can't just go to England every single day to study this information. So we might have to rely on doing research and collecting data from other people to be able to do this. Organisms need energy for growth. Where there's no energy, there's no life. And energy cannot just be created. It's not just out of thin air. So we ask, well, where does energy come from? An autotroph is pretty much the same thing as a primary producer. It's just how we use the word. When we're explaining an organism that can use energy from the sun or from chemicals to produce its own food, we're referring to an autotroph. But when we're talking about being the first thing in line of a food chain, we're talking about a first producer. So plants and algae are good examples of autotrophs and first producers. Our primary producers get their energy from photosynthesis. We're going to talk about photosynthesis in a couple units, but what you need to understand for now is that sunlight and water combined with carbon dioxide work their way around in a plant. The plant makes and takes those ingredients and makes a carbohydrate. The carbohydrate gives it energy, which also gives other people and other things energy when it's consumed. The flower or plant then releases oxygen into the atmosphere. Okay, that's kind of a lot, so if you have questions, just let me know. So moving on, we have heterotrophs and consumers. Now, animals, fungi, and many bacteria can't capture energy through photosynthesis. If I were to go stand outside in Washington's parking lot and stand like a tree, I would not photosynthesize. I would not make energy from the sun. I'd get sunburned and I'd be hungry. So we have to obtain our energy by eating other things. So we are called heterotrophs or consumers. We rely on other organisms for energy and food supply. Types of consumers. So there's 6 different ones that I want you to be aware of. The first one here with the lion, this is a carnivore. So a carnivore eats meat. It hunts and kills other animals. The next one is an herbivore. This one here right in the top middle. So that koala bear you can see is eating a plant. Herbivores get energy by eating plant leaves, roots, seeds, and fruit. Cows, caterpillar, and deer are good examples of of herbivores. The next one we have is omnivores, and omnivores are animals that eat both plants and other animals. For example, humans, bears, and pigs. Now this is a vulture, and our vulture friend here is a scavenger. So a scavenger is animals that consume other animals after they're already dead, either by predator or by other causes. The most common predator or the most common scavenger is a vulture. Then we're going to skip over here to the worm. So the earthworm, that's called a detritivore. Detritivores chew up dead and decaying plant and animal remains into smaller pieces. So they eat it when it's excreted or when it's fully digested. It produces something in the soil that's called an organic material. Organic material is then used by the mushrooms in the bottom middle picture and other fungi. Those guys are called decomposers. So they get their energy from food that's already been digested by other things. Okay, so that's kind of a lot of information right now, but I just want to stop there. If you continue to be gone, that's okay. I will just keep recording myself talking about the slides that we've done that day. And please email, call, or text if you have any questions about the material that we go over in class or the homework assignments. Have a great day.